For no reason at all, I've decided to come to Beijing to introduce the next segment, which is about paid, owned and earned. This is the distribution framework that IBM are taking to market with all sorts of digital content. It works particularly well for video.
Hold up, before we get into the detail, let's just make sure we all know what we mean when we say paid, owned and earned.
I'd say that it's very similar to everything that you've used in the past. We've always had advertising that you've paid for. You've always had the opportunity to influence people as they've come into your store, which is the owned part of things. And you've always had the opportunity to earn advertising rights from people, depending on how good your service is, as they start talking about you. There's nothing new, there's nothing frightening about paid, owned, earned. It's just now applying it to a digital world. Simple as that.
If I'm going to create video content, where is it going to live? And you can think about which channels it could live in paid, owned and earned channels. And I think there are going to be different opportunities across them. I think, but the great part about video and any kind of compelling content is that it can be leveraged across all of them.
Paid, owned, earned is, I guess, the framework in which IBM deploys all content. Full stop.
Well, let's start with paid media, which we all know is traditional pay-for-space media advertising. Or is it?
There's been two responses from publishers with increasing demand from advertisers wanting video ad units. The traditional response from a lot of the major publishers has been to take a 15 or 30 second TVC, lop it in front of some content which somebody wants to view and make them view it. So that pre-roll ad format has become the standard approach to reaching people through video. I think that's not the best way to use the medium. If you're sitting there and you're forced to watch something on quite a personal device, there's a good chance you're going to alienate users with your message more than actually add to the message. The other approach which other companies have made is user-initiated video. So people like Say Media, VidID, a lot of the networks are coming out of the States where they're telling people there is going to be video content here and letting people interact with it, letting them know it's a commercial message. And if people want to interact with it, then they can. The nice thing about those networks are you only actually pay when somebody interacts with your content. I think if you only going back a couple of years ago, if you're talking about video on any device, when you're talking about online, everybody said, well, it's very short little snippets of content. Now, if you actually look at the data, it's a lot more long-form content. If you look at YouTube's whole strategy for the next few years, they're going off and doing deals with Disney. One was just announced, and that's taking full hour and a half long content, which people will be viewing, and a lot of that viewership is on tablet devices or on mobile devices. Think about the audience, think about how, when and where you're going to reach them, and tailor the content to match that. So if you know you've got a busy audience when you're only going to have a few seconds with them, I'll use video just for that. But if you know you're going to have an engaged audience, then deliver that longer form content to actually add value through the medium.
And if you're thinking demand programs can't get involved with paid video, think again.
CA is absolutely desperate for new video assets. You know, we know across interactive advertising in particular, video has a much higher engagement rate than your standard banner ads, and certainly some of our more static banners. Video drives the engagement, it drives the click-through. We desperately need more. That said, the way that they need to be produced, you know, there are some boundaries around that, and we do need to look at how we make sure that they're always on brand and would be approved by GMU and by Worldwide. So yeah, I think the way that we need to look at the production of videos needs to be from the strategy all the way through. So in particular for the demand programs teams, as they're producing new assets, they need to brief that in with their Ogilvy team up front when they're planning campaigns. It shouldn't be a tactic that's an add-on or a tack-on. There's two ways that we can look at it. That the SME videos are a great example. The business or the brand system team were able to produce those assets, and we were able to use CA funds to drive them into the marketplace by paid media options, which is great. We can also use them in free media options, so our social media aspects. But there's another way that we can look at it from a demand programs point of view. They have budgets to do interactive media campaigns, and as we work together to consolidate those across our audience groups, there's more funding there. So if the teams produce the right sorts of video assets, and absolutely I'm more than happy to be involved and to partner with those DP teams, they can use their interactive media budgets to be able to get those out into paid placements.
The great thing about operating in an organisation as large as IBM is that there are plenty of opportunities to distribute your video without paying for the space.
I'd describe owned media as being, I guess, the ownership of the organisation or the property of the organisation. So it's on domain. We often talk in digital about something being on or off domain. So best example of that would be owned. Best way to ensure that your video content gets up there in a timely manner would be to plan it as part of your program planning. So once your asset is complete, make sure that you have, I guess, a deployment plan in place whereby you can say, on X day, I'm ready to deploy, I can get it into the production services team, and it can be delivered in an orderly fashion. There will still be the SLAs that are in place in order to make that turnaround happen, but the more you plan and the more you predict what date that asset will be available, the production services can then line up to the team that will be assigned to your particular task. So whilst you might not be able to engage them immediately, you can definitely give them that foresight of when it will become available. At the end of the day, the video is just the asset, it's the core piece, but what's the searchability of that asset? Where are the title tags, the metadata? Most importantly, we really need to have that subject line of what's that provocative message? Why are people going to click on that as opposed to the next video that's lined up? So having your subject and also too your overview and copy, which really details and explains what's going to be, in a concise way, what is going to be shared and form part of that video is absolutely critical. Immediately people think own domain, IBM.com. IBM.com we have an excess of 700 odd pages just in ANZ. It's a huge site in itself. Now, reaching out to different areas of the site certainly is one angle, so I don't want to dismiss that altogether. So there is the case studies section of the site, there is the Smarter Planet landing pages of our site, and they're very content rich and they have really great content calendars aligned to them. So I don't want to dismiss the importance of the IBM.com pages. But in saying that, another area is the IBM.com rep pages as well. So they're the seller pages. They've only been released this year and they are owned by the IBM.com team. And they are constantly looking for new content to help prompt conversations directly with clients, and that is an owned site as well. Similarly as well, our R&D team would really enjoy getting some of the assets that we have in terms of being able to showcase that on their screen display in the R&D lab in Melbourne as an example. So I think that, being able to make sure that it can be repurposed, and certainly the timing of the video is absolutely a critical element. And don't forget the homepage. Homepage traffic is in excess of around about 40,000 visits on a monthly basis. So that's a huge amount of traffic. So we shouldn't dismiss that interest and attraction. It's obviously got paid search and a lot of organic search and effort that we put into making that happen.
Let's dive into earned media, which is sometimes called social, but if you're thinking it's just Facebook, you're only half right.
What people think of as social media is often quite focused. They think about, you say social media and people immediately think of Facebook and then maybe Twitter or something like that. When we talk about social, we talk about any social activity through the digital web, so blogs, websites, common threads, anything like that, private LinkedIn groups. It's all of these things come under the sort of social banner because it's actually about the activity that's present within that rather than actually the network where it's happening. It's always different for every single brand. I mean, that's one of the things that we sort of face constantly, is that you're not looking for a strategy that's the same thing that works for company A that works for company B. You have to identify the right kind of influencers. You have to kind of identify what they've done in the past. So is this a brand that's done something to a particular segment of the community that then you can't actually approach them or many people within that community because they've already got a really strong negative association with the brand. But then how do you go about that? There's certainly parallels with public relations. I mean, especially when you look at what we do with blogger outreach, you can obviously see the parallels back to reaching out to journalists, but it's a really different sort of art form, especially when we're looking at video content. Keep it short, the shorter the better, because it's more easily consumable. I mean, it's great because video is really compelling, but at the same time, every sort of second you add to it, you're adding a point where people are getting further away from when they engage to when they get your complete message. So the shorter is always the better. I'd say to definitely think about it, who you're actually trying to reach before you actually even go into the production phase, because not only is it about incorporating the message, it's incorporating how you're going to tell that message so that somebody wants to say, this is something I saw, you probably really enjoyed this too. And I guess the third one is to make sure that you're actually putting it out there in the right spaces. So, with YouTube is a really fantastic network, but there's a lot of nuances that go into it. People can think about, just uploading the video there, but there's a lot of goes into the SEO style thing of finding videos within YouTube in terms of how you write the descriptions, how you add tags, the thumbnails that you use, and all that sort of thought goes into how you actually present the video, and also just about then how you're actually going to contact people to let people know, because nothing exists in a vacuum out there.
Now, if you've mastered the basics and are ready to innovate, you might want to consider some of the interesting new formats that are emerging right now. Rowan Avis shares a few of the best.
Rather than simply taking your video and literally running it in a square, you should really look at utilising it within a rich media ad unit. So that means that when a user is seeing your advertisement on the web, they roll over it and it expands into a large ad unit where you can have multiple videos that you can choose from. You can also support it with other photography and textual content. You can have your case studies and white papers all within one ad unit that can have your lead functionality and your Call Me Now functionality as well. And therefore that is fully utilising your video content alongside other actionable items, which again is providing that user an emotional experience, a brand experience, all the way through to what do I do right now because I want this product now.
Mobile technology. We're always looking for opportunities to extend the event experience. Things like mobile apps is an obvious one for that, and we've been doing a bit of work recently with mobile apps, not so much native apps, but ones, .mobi ones, which are essentially a web page on your phone. But using those at the event as a aggregator for the content. It's got the agenda on it and a map how to get around, who the speakers are. But also for those that can't attend the event, we can promote it to them because we can do a live stream of the keynote through that mobile application. So they could use that on their iPad, they could watch it on their phone, their BlackBerry, whatever.
Utilising interactive video content with content overlaid across the filming footage is a huge area of growth for us. It's very market leading, it provides a really interesting and engaging experience to the audience, and it genuinely allows us to pull together a brand experience with the lead generation. And it is relatively cost efficient to do and easy to push out into the media space. That's something that I would love to see happening in 2012. Often many of our products, the IBM products, that they have multiple solutions. So like cloud, for example, there's lots of different ways that you can use it. And I think video can actually be set up so that the user can interact with what they would want to use cloud for, and then the video story would continue based on that stream of what they've shown interest in.
Congratulations, you can consider yourself fully video enabled. You have completed Focus, the training course to help you make killer videos. Don't forget to grab hold of the downloadable cheat sheet, summaries of all the information you've seen, bios of the speakers, plenty of links to resources that you need to go and make your own killer videos. Good luck.